And now I'm going to be taking you into a deep dive on the science of training technique so that you can understand how we optimize our form on these exercises so that you can apply it to your training and improve your technique more and more as time goes on so that you can advance more and more in your fitness journey. And this is class number 1, which is an introduction to training technique and movement. And I'll be teaching you all about the topic of movement, how to move, how not to move, and range of motion. And I am Brian Krall, your fitness instructor and personal trainer from Be Your Best Body Personal Training and True Life Development, Holistic Personal Development. And today's class is something I've really been looking forward to finally getting to over the past couple months of shooting the first few parts. So let's get right into it. The very first and foremost topic that I need to talk about are common technique mistakes and problems that a lot of people make when performing exercises. Even after being taught proper form, these are patterns that people can tend to slip into because of the fact that your body is programmed to do everything to make an exercise easier. So you need to really watch out for these and pay attention to what you're doing to make sure you do not fall into any of these bad habits. And the first and foremost thing I want to note that should go without saying, but it doesn't. So I actually put this as number 0 on my list, which is not thinking of safety, okay? Safety should always come first, which means you should not be lifting even relatively heavy without taking safety precautions. And number 1 is going too fast without a full range of motion and without doing the proper technique for partials, all right? Just cutting the range of motion in order to do less of the exercise, probably without even realizing it. And then number 2 is not controlling the descent of the weight, which is called the eccentric part of the movement, and letting the weight just drop back down, which means you're eliminating half of the exercise, a very important half at that. Number 3 is not feeling into the contraction you are trying to produce, and thus not really producing a pump because you have no mind-muscle connection and are just trying to move the weight from point A to point B, which is not actually what the exercise is about. Number 4 is not doing any isometric holds at the top or the bottom of the exercise for a stretch or squeeze, which is a really important thing that makes your exercise so much more effective, and not doing that is really missing out. And number 5 is using too much weight without doing enough reps or good enough form, and basically ego lifting, which makes the exercise ineffective. Number 6 is doing too specific of a split in the muscle groups that you are working out. So working out only 1 or 2 muscles per workout, which then causes too much time in between working out those muscles, giving them way too much rest and not enough consistency, which is a huge key for growth. So doing a 4-day split or a bro split is extremely limiting because you're not working out each muscle with enough frequency. Number 7 is not understanding anatomy and biomechanics and what ways of moving are extremely suboptimal or harmful and could possibly injure you, and thus doing exercises and techniques that are doing more harm than good. And number 8 is using too much body language when doing the movement, right? Not actually isolating the target muscles, but doing a lot of recruitment of other muscle groups because you are swinging your body or leaning in and out, right? Which you're not supposed to be doing, and it just takes away from the muscles you are supposed to be working out and turns it into more of a full body workout so that the exercise you're doing is no longer effective. Number 9 is not using the right grip, stance, or other key aspects of the form due to not being properly educated in the exercise. And just really having seen it done and guessing it how to grip or where your feet should be, etc., or the specific way you're supposed to move, the bar path and such. And these things make a huge difference, okay? Where you place your hands and feet and the specific path of the movement are huge keys to whether it's going to be ergonomical and effective or not. So you shouldn't just go trying to copy what you see other people doing in the gym without being actually taught how it's done specifically. And number 10 is bad volume allocation. And what this often looks like is someone doing an equal number of bicep isolation exercises as they do pulling exercises for their back which also work the bicep, which means their biceps, which is one of the smallest muscles, are doing almost double the amount of work that the back, which is one of the largest muscle groups, is doing. And this is a very common example of things that people do because they do not realize that they are working their bicep and all pulling exercises, and that those count as bicep work when you're considering the total volume of exercises you want to be doing, and that the amount of volume of work you should be doing for each muscle should be different and based upon how big that muscle is. So your back and legs should be doing the most amount of volume out of any muscle group, and things like your biceps should be doing the least amount. But people who have not been properly educated don't know this, and they oftentimes end up overtraining really small muscles like the biceps and shoulders, which also get trained on a lot of other pushing and pulling movements, and then undertraining large muscle groups like their back and legs. And number 11 is not adjusting the machines to your body so that they are ergonomical for you, and also not using them with a full range of motion. Number 12 is not having enough exercise, equipment, and technique variety. Never trying new things, just doing your favorite exercises, getting really used to doing them so that they become automated and no longer effective, right? Because there's no muscle confusion from variety, and just doing the same things for too long without any sort of periodization because they're too dogmatic about the fitness style that they love and thinking that it is the only right way for them. So they just keep doing it until it gets totally stale and they're not making any progress anymore, but still they stay married to doing it that same way, even though they're not getting results anymore. I see this all the time. People who've been doing the same exact thing fitness-wise for years, and even though they haven't been able to make any advancements in the last year or two, they still think it's the best way. But even if it was for a time, you need to periodize your fitness routines and change them from time to time because you do need variety in order to keep stimulating the muscle so that your exercise protocols do not go stale and stop being effective. And then number 13 is not training with health or athleticism in mind, and just training to try to get more muscular and look good, which can cause muscle imbalances and other health issues such as aches and pains, and oftentimes these people will then ignore the pains that they get, and this will lead to eventual injury. And when you're doing fitness training, you need to be thinking of health first. If you don't have a strong foundation of health, you're not going to be able to build big musculature because you've got nothing to build it on top of. That's why the first things that I taught you in part 3 where I was doing exercise demonstrations was how to do training for your health. We were training stabilizer muscles, training your balance, training for mobility and flexibility, and doing other sorts of training for health and athleticism like aerobics and plyometrics. And then I also taught you how to train your core, which is very important for health and athleticism and functionalism and being able to do anything else you want to do, whether it be to become very strong or build musculature and a great physique or play sports. All right, you need a foundation of health and stability and a strong core and mobility and all those other things in order for your training to be successful rather than resulting in imbalances and health issues and aches and pains and eventual injury. This leads me to number 14, which is where these imbalances come from, and this is not training every muscle in the body, okay? It's very common for people to only do fun exercises like curls and bench press and other stuff like that, and to skip out on training smaller muscles that aren't as fun to train but are very important for your functionalism and your health and athleticism and such as calves, low back, rotator cuff, forearms, traps, obliques, glutes, hip flexors and extensors, etc. All right, and when you skip out on training those, you develop very bad muscle imbalances and weaknesses in certain areas, which can result in health problems and injury. All right, so don't do that. Number 15 is never stretching or doing mobility work, which again is going to lead to aches and pains and eventual injury. So you really need to make sure you are stretching and doing mobility work every time you work out, just like I taught you in the health training class, which you should have watched. Number 16 is not doing physical therapy for minor injuries and letting them turn into larger injuries that can eventually put you out of commission. When you start to develop a certain type of pain that is not the type of pain you should be having in a muscle you've been working out, but pain in a joint or tendon, if it doesn't go away soon, you need to see your doctor about it and get a referral to physical therapy. Because if you don't, and you do nothing about it, and just keep doing what you've been doing, it will eventually turn into a greater injury that will put you out of commission for a longer time. Number 17 is not having enough consistency or frequency and skipping days of training. All right, consistency and frequency are really big keys to growth, and you shouldn't be skipping any days. I think that if people are skipping training days in a way that is, not infrequent, that could be a sign of a number of things. One, that fitness is not really that important to them. Two, that their routines have grown boring and stale and ineffective so that they no longer are even motivated to go to the gym and do them. Or three, they are programming themselves for too much work. They probably need another split and to be working out every other day instead of every day or something like that. But one way or another, if you are semi-routinely missing days, there's something wrong with your program that needs to be corrected so that you can actually be committed to it. All right, because that consistency is key. So you need to be committed to your program and not be missing days. And if it's an issue of not being able to get to the gym all the time, you need to set yourself up for at-home workouts so that that's not a limiting factor. So you need to get yourself a couple sets of resistance bands and dumbbells so that you can do at-home workouts like I've taught you before. Number 18 is forgetting to do things outside of your working sets, such as a warm-up with mobility drills and such, a cool-down period, cardio, recovery protocols such as stretching, proper diet and nutrition, etc. All right, working out is not just about doing your working sets that get you a really great pump and get you feeling strong. All right, in order to make the adaptations you are trying to make in order to grow, you need more than just those working sets. You need a proper warm-up and cool-down, you need mobility and flexibility, you need recovery, diet, etc. Otherwise, you're doing more harm than good. All of this stuff is an integral part of your fitness. It's not just about the working sets. All right. Number 19 is having the wrong sequencing in your routines and your entire program, which most people have no periodization for. Okay. So proper sequencing and periodization are very important. And don't worry, that's what this program is all about. I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about this stuff as the program goes on. Number 20 is trying to do too much too fast and thus overtraining. And this is why a lot of newbies end up giving up within weeks or months of starting, because they think that all they have to do is train like an advanced athlete and really quickly they will become one. But instead what they're doing is overtraining and they end up burning out or injuring themselves. Okay, so don't try to do too much too fast. Number 21 is getting too much rest, sitting around between sets on the equipment doing nothing. If most of your workout is spent resting rather than working, because doing your exercise takes less than a minute and then you're spending 3 to 5 minutes resting, well, that's not much of a workout, okay? A workout is supposed to be you doing more moving than resting, all right? So that's what you need to do. We work out because our bodies require at least 30 minutes of constant movement per day in order to be healthy, okay? So if you're doing more resting than working, you're not really giving yourself a good workout. You're not getting healthier. So stop sitting around on the benches so much. You should be getting back to work as soon as possible. And if you need that much rest, you're probably lifting too heavy. You should be able to get back to work faster than that. And number 22 is having improper programming or no programming at all, and having a lack of science and systematization in your fitness, and basically just blindly following some generic template that you found online that you don't even understand what's behind it and isn't really customized to you and may not even be right for you, or just totally winging it and just going to the gym and doing whatever you want to do that day. And so the people who do this are not getting an effective workout and are usually just producing imbalances and health issues. There needs to be some sort of science and system to what you are doing, and that's why we use programming.